Are you now paying more for your daily essentials, things like rice, cooking oil, pulses and more? If you are, you're not alone. It's happening across the world. In India, for instance, inflation has jumped. In Sri Lanka, there is a food shortage. In Nepal, inflation has touched a 19-month high. In Bangladesh, inflation is breaking records. In the month of November, it touched a 5-year high. And in Pakistan, food inflation is crushing the poor.
From their arrival in the 90s to their 1,600 stores today.
Let's get in there and get some bargains!
The one-time upstarts have shaken the traditional retail giants. By cutting bills.
Good for value.
In terms of saving money, why wouldn't you go to Aldi and Lidl?
It's a very affordable place to go.
Stacking the shelves with own brand goods.
Aldi and Lidl are infamous for the way in which they mimic brands. And in fact, they'll even mock the brands themselves because they then come in massively cheaper.
And springing surprises in the aisles.
You walk into the shop and in the centre aisle are just these big bins with a random assortment of inflatable canoes and winter socks.
Once, Britons were snobbish.
I used to see them putting Lidl stock in M&S bags because they wanted their neighbours to know that they'd been to M&S.
But now they flock to the tills.
We've had a massive shift. We don't have as much money. We don't have as much disposable income. And along came the great discount retailers, just what we needed.
This inflation will get worse because of one country, China. China is adding to global inflation. How? By hoarding the world's grain. How much? More than half of the global supply. China is hoarding more than half of the global supply of food grains. This includes maize and grains, other grains. China represents less than 20% of the world's population, but it has a stockpile that can feed more than 50% of the planet. China's mass hoarding is causing a global price rise. It is also pushing countries into famine. On Gravitas tonight, we'll tell you about the dangerous fallout of China's mass hoarding. First, let's tell you what China is doing. How much food supply is Beijing hoarding? Let's give you some numbers. Estimates say China has 69% of the world's maize reserves, 60% of the rice reserves, and 51% of the wheat reserves. Going by one report, China's food supplies are at a quote-unquote historically high level. And it's just one Chinese state-owned enterprise that is building the stockpile. It's called the COFCO Group, COFCO. This is a major food processing company. The COFCO Group runs one of China's largest food stockpiling bases. It is in Dalian, in northeast China. It's a port. It has 310 huge silos. They store beans and grains supplied from within China and abroad. From here, the port of Dalian, China distributes food to the rest of the country. You could say the COFCO Group is critical for China's food security. But for the rest of us, it's a threat. Because this mass hoarding of food in China is impacting the world.
We got to talk about China. China's Ministry of Commerce has been warning its citizens to stock up. It's a combination of a new inclement winter weather and tensions with Taiwan. And this is going to affect us hard. The parts that run our tractors, China. The parts that run our trucks, China. The parts that run our factories, China. China's already struggling to keep production up because of rolling blackouts and the energy crisis. If they're worried, you should be worried. This is not only going to affect our supply chain worse, it's going to affect our ability to grow and deliver crops and package them and truck them. This is why it's important to pay attention to supply chain news in other countries, not just the US, because a lot of the stuff that we use to maintain our supply chain is actually produced overseas. So get ready.
A message to my government. I've lost so much in my life. There's nothing more you can take, except our freedom. And boy, you better be as passionate about taking it as I am about keeping it.
The message of the Freedom Convoy is echoing globally, with protesters in New Zealand descending on Parliament and truckers in France making their way to Paris. In the U.S., truckers are also planning to drive from California to D.C. to stand up against mandates. One America's Daniel Baldwin has more on the international repercussions of Canada's Freedom Convoy.
The Canadian trucker protests inspired copycats across the world. A French freedom convoy gathered in Nice with flags and signs in preparation to depart for both Paris and Brussels.
Give me the jam.
I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I need food. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Like, what it do? I'm hungry.
This is utterly ridiculous. Look at the cost of a 5-pound bag of chicken wings. $30 basically is what I just spent. This is crazy. Crazy.
Inflation is real on these nasty looking chicken wings.
And the chairman of Tesco has told the BBC the worst is yet to come on food prices for consumers. John Allen also said it was wrong for the governor of the Bank of England to call for pay restraint as part of efforts to keep inflation under control.
Canadian inflation.
Well, they weren't joking about the price of butter going up.
Almost $9.
That's crazy. That's like $5 more.
The diss track on Biden. It's the diss track because we in an economic crisis. Economic crisis. When Joe Biden gonna lower all these prices?
Hey folks, I just want to say welcome to the apocalypse. I'm going to show you that these stores don't have as much as they used to. I mean, you go to buy some bread, and you go to buy some creamer, and shit's mostly gone.